If your wife was trampled to death by filthy degenerate guidos at the local Walmart over waffle irons on Black Friday, what would you do? In this video, we'll follow a lot of hopelessly naive teenagers, watch them die gruesome deaths, and help John Carver tighten up his sociopathic methods for revenge. I'm going to break down the mistakes made, what you should do, and how to beat John Carver in Thanksgiving. We start out following Tim Dillon, working security at the local Right Mart right before their big Black Friday opening. The crowd squared up to see which lucky first 100 customers will earn themselves a free waffle iron. Seeing a group of kids sneak in and flaunt some discounted plastic crap sends the crowd into a frenzy. Now, according to Washington Post's article on how to survive a crowd crush and why they can become deadly, listening to crowd sounds is important. If you hear people complaining about discomfort, cries of distress, it's a signal things are gonna get out of control.
All right, everybody, just stay calm, please.
Like that. Once the crowd density begins to exceed about 5 people per square meter, which is about 11 square feet, the situation is potentially dangerous, said Martin Amos, a crowd expert and professor of computer and information sciences at Northumbria University. But what should you do? Well, leave if you can. Go with the flow if you have to, even if it means stepping on someone's face. And if you too go down under the horde, assume the fetal position, covering your head and chest while keeping your limbs close. Groupthink takes over, and the floodgates get smashed open. With the last drops of blood purging from his soulless pod body, a man clutches the last waffle iron in a sweet embrace, praying it will descend into fiery hell with him for eternity. Nope, some lady just clutched it. Sorry, bro, no waffles in hell. It's complete ape chaos. One thing is for certain, despite tramplings during Black Friday being statistically rare, you never want to be on your hands and knees in a mob rush. Ooh, baseball might not be your ticket anymore. And your girl? Let's just say, between tall and handsome and rehabilitating your soppy for a year, I'd expect she's gonna start being busier. Get off the ground, idiots. Better yet, just stay away from this place altogether. Have you heard of Amazon? A while back, Bill Burr had a bid on thinning out the population by sinking cruise ships. I say we add Right Mart on Black Friday to the hit list. Lay the trap with a stack of waffle irons. Open the doors. Once all the degenerate lunatics make it inside, lock the doors. Pump in Zyklon B, process the bodies into Soylent Green, rebrand the Soylent Green into a new name like Impossible Burgers, then sell them in a Whole Foods for a significant markup to vegans. Exactly 1 year after the infamous Fight Mart massacre, which no one was held accountable for, it appears an unknown man has been holding quite the grudge. With surveillance footage and YouTube videos identifying the perps, this guy's got all the evidence he needs to be judge, jury, and executioner. Protests are forming outside of Right Mart because of corporate's plans to hold another Black Friday sale. It's all fun and games until the exec walks in on his wrecked commercial set with the words Fight Mart written in red. Clearly, someone's calling his ass out. They're also calling out the teens that had snuck into the store early before the whole massacre went down. It's kind of hilarious how the people who did the actual damage aren't being targeted, but the people who simply opened the store and were themselves victims are getting foreboding texts from a suspicious Insta named the John Carver. Sure, the store only hired 2 security guards. What did you expect? The National Guard? It's a Right Mart. They're not exactly responsible for enraged moms breaking down their doors. How about we review the clear video evidence and charge each person that stepped on the doorman, as well as the person who snapped Bobby's arm, the 2 that snapped that lady's neck, the woman who stole the waffle iron from Mr. Neck, etc. As for the teens, it's not really their fault. The doors were left open. How would they know this was a murderous horde? Lonnie did shoot the video that got uploaded. However, that's not exactly a crime. Not even close. Nor was he a negligent witness to a specific instance of someone being bludgeoned. He was in the fray, batting people away. Maybe I'm being presumptuous. Maybe the suspicious text saying the table is set was an invitation to a harmless social gathering after he cleaned the streets up. Somehow I doubt that, especially judging by the man standing outside with a mask on staring at them. Can we pause real quick to appreciate that this man spent a full year planning out his revenge? No sloppy murders in haste with evidence left behind and a clear trail back to him. Or so I hope. Oh good, at least he is targeting that loud-mouthed diner waitress that peeled that poor woman's scalp off. This started out solid. Quick, violent, completely took her by surprise. The problem is he's got a mask on, too many clothes to mask his stature, and too slow to pull off that freeze plus dismemberment combo move. Why was your axe off in the kitchen somewhere? That should have been Book of Eli. Now, she's locked herself in the closet trying to dial 911. Lucky for you, there's too much blood, and her face is too up for the facial recognition. Not that the police would get there in time anyways. The point is, it's too risky to let your prey run amok. Look, I'm not saying you immediately bury the knife in her eye socket. I get it. We want to make her hurt. It's gotta be slow, but that's what drugs are for. You got the big C, the big R, or a frying pan to put her to sleep. Then you can bind her up, take her to a second location, torture her, grind her up, and enter her into the local chili cook-off competition. Where he goes wrong again is not immediately breaking the door down and axing her to death. He actually leaves the building, hides out in a beater car, waits for her to come out the back entrance, then runs her over. The problem is that she could have taken the time to wipe the screen off, dial 911, and hide out or barricade herself in. She could also leave out of a different exit. Lots of variables introduced here for little in terms of increased murder satisfaction, in my opinion. Especially when the ultimate goal is to send a message to Right Mart and any would-be Right Mart supporters. The following morning, her lower half is spotted perched atop Right Mart HQ. If I was one of the clowns at the previous Thanksgiving massacre, I'd be booking tickets out of the country until the killer was found. Then again, if they were smart enough to think of that, or had their finances in order, they wouldn't have been there in the first place. This John Carver bro on Instagram is quite the influencer already. His second post tagging the teens already has 208 likes. Not bad. I think it's pretty clear the killer's obsession with these teens is not going to be good for their health. If I was them, I'd be thinking long and hard about who might want vengeance. No, justice for last year. Bobby became quite the ghost after his arm got tied up like a balloon animal. He didn't want to go inside but was dragged in by his friends. He doesn't seem like a killer, doesn't have a strong motive against them, and let's be real, can't swing an axe that well now. The ex-store manager whose wife's neck got torqued sideways. He has the strongest motive, but nah, this killer's too cold and calculated. He'd never loudmouth to the news team if he'd already planned all this out. Maybe Neck Guy's spouse. No, she was already looking for an excuse. What about the door guy? No, he probably lives alone. That new sheriff certainly got it in him, except he has no motive. The old one, Patrick, he has a reason, a stupid, irrational reason, but a reason to hate the Right Mart family. Amanda, Mitch, and Patrick were very close friends. He was witness to the moment they all got pulled into Right Mart duty that night. Not only does he have a motive, but it's also the perfect crime. He's the sheriff investigating murders he committed. If I was the teens, in my free time outside of school, I'd be staking out and crossing off each member on the list, including the sheriff. No, especially the sheriff. Dangerous, sure, but so is waiting to see what John Carver has planned for them next. The good news is, they got time because Mr. Carver's gotta slash a few more nobodies off the list before the big turkey dinner. Looks like Tim Dillon's next on the menu. Jeez, this killer's real loose with the targeting. You mean to tell me, when a crazed mob bum rushed the one remaining security guard out front who was paid $8 an hour, and he fled under threat to his own life, that's an offense punishable by death? Well, as planned, John Carver deletes any element of surprise in order to sweeten the meat.
I'm a security guard. I kill people every day.
We wish him well. Jessica gets another notification in the morning from John Carver. Seats are filling up quickly. Seems every night there's a new one, which means we have days at most. She and Bobby link back up and head to the police station where they comb through security footage to identify potential suspects. The Hanover douchebag kid screaming at the front of the gates. Jessica points out two other people. Lionel, because he's, quote, always the turkey at the school parade. Yeah, good one, Jessica. Very helpful. The second is Ryan Baker, her current BF. Why? Because he was friends with the door guy who was trampled. I'm sorry, what the fuck is going on? What motive does Ryan have? Especially to kill you. Circling back to Lonnie. Yeah, something about him doesn't scream premeditated. Way to waste the sheriff's time, guys. He's got murders to get to. The teens regroup to rehash potential suspects. Mitch, the ex-store manager who lost his wife. Bobby, Ryan, Lonnie. Ultimately, they don't know what to do except wait for the police to catch him. So, basically they're dead meat. Just like Lonnie and his equally abrasive girlfriend. See what I mean? Executions are so much easier with the element of surprise. And you don't have to sacrifice much of the fun. Evan and Scuba show up for their big football game, despite the murders being all over the news, and them specifically being targeted. When it's canceled, Evan and Gabby head inside the distinctly empty and isolated school locker rooms. On their way back out, Carver fills up another 2 seats.
That's weird.
After which, he tries to bait Jessica in using Gabby's phone. Surprisingly, it works. She doesn't even try to ask a question only Gabby would know the answer to. How she doesn't immediately suspect that she's being baited into a trap with the classic evil jelly bean trail, I have no idea. She must know she's the main character. It's only at the last millisecond, when she sees the killer's reflection in Gabby's phone, which she pulled out of a random dumpster, that she reacts. Another literal swing and a miss for John Carver. I'm surprised Jessica didn't hear his footsteps from those boots on the hard floor, which were conveniently scrubbed out by sound design to make this situation work. Realistically, you'd want some form of sound cover in order to sneak up that close, or you'd wear moccasins. It's too risky. Jessica isn't an old overweight diner waitress. She probably can run pretty fast, which means we can't afford for her to see us coming. The trap worked. All you needed to do was wait in a nearby corner, then shoot her with a taser. While she's stun locked, you can slash 50% off of her, whatever fits your motif. The last thing you want is her hiding out, calling the sheriff, that's right outside the school, mind you, and having him put 17 rounds into that dumb peephole mask you're currently blinding yourself with. Jessica gets lucky that Carver isn't wearing eye pro, successfully disorienting him by blasting his eyes with hairspray while making her escape. Yulia's dad shows up, throws her in the G-Wagon, and says they're going to Florida for the foreseen future. Not a bad move. However, you're always gonna have to look over your shoulder until the killer's in custody. For your mental sanity, you need to get a gun from under the table, lay a trap, and kill him. So far, Carver's been preying on your stupid ass to be gullible enough to waltz into isolated areas unarmed where he could swing his axe at you. He's been pretty sneaky too. The waitress was jumped at the diner after close. Tim was jumped in his own home. Evan and Abby were ambushed in an empty school, and Jessica nearly the same. It's clear Carver is tracking us, predicting isolated areas in our routine path. This is perfect. For example, if your dad is on a business trip today and you're going home to an empty house, you can be reasonably sure he's lying in wait. Then you can either call 911 and tell them you think he broke into your house, or stake it out until he attempts to leave, in which case you can identify and or tail his car, then provide that information to the police to make the arrest. I'd go with the latter. If it is the sheriff, then immediately dialing 911 will just warn him. If you tail him first, then you can identify him and go to the other cops. Fortunately, Jessica and Scuba are on the same page. Only problem is, I don't think they made sure nobody tracked them. The local gun guy offers up a gold 50 cal Desert Eagle, then a 44 Magnum. Two wildly impractical low capacity pistols that Scuba will not be able to shoot accurately. Maybe he's just trying to squeeze Scuba, knowing his dead anyway. Scuba finally lands on the SIG P226, while Jessica insists on being a completely unarmed liability dependent on others for survival, even turning down a little belt knife. Literal hours ago, you nearly got an axe buried in your face. She must really think she's the final girl. Seems Carver had the same idea.
Julia!
Carver's nice enough to FaceTime Yulia's friends, so he has to deal with them too. Bro, what is with you complicating the situation? Maybe he thought they were further than a couple minutes away, but god, there's no reason to hold up the selfie cam. Carver lucks out that Scuba has no idea how guns work and throws Yulia on top of a table saw while bolting out the back. Wow, that is a lot of sausage. Yeah, she didn't make it. I know it sucks to see your friend get eviscerated, but if Scuba had bothered to run 2 minutes worth of drawing and dry firing drills and had immediately chased Carver while Jessica tended to Yulia's corpse, he might have had a chance to run down and gun down the killer. Oh, it was all according to plan. See, Carver baited them to try to save Yulia, so he could show them a video of Abby and Evan bound up on the killing floor. Because simply sending them a video later on wouldn't work, of course. I suppose the point of showing them the video is to bait them into another trap or keep them from running away? I don't know. None of them are running for the same reason I mentioned earlier. You run, and you have to look over your shoulder for the rest of your most likely short life. The Right Mark crew, sheriffs, Jessica, and Scuba all plan to set a trap of their own at the Thanksgiving parade. The plan, when the parade float returns to the warehouse, they can make it look like it's empty, making him think that there's an opportunity to strike. If he takes the bait, aka them returning to the warehouse, the cops move in for the arrest. One problem. Carver's gonna see this from a mile away, especially if he most likely knows all of you are having a pre-parade day meeting, as well as the obvious police presence at the warehouse the morning of the parade. Personally, I'd call the Right Mark parade float off, if not just for the account that it's stupid. I wouldn't put it past John Carver to JFK your ass. It'd make a hell of a point, smoking the Right Marked president on his Right Marked float on Thanksgiving Day in front of everyone.
Happy Thanksgiving!
Or he could wear a random clown outfit that stands out from the crowd and chop Lionel's head off in broad daylight. Ironically, everyone starts running around like turkeys with their heads chopped off. He's wearing a clown outfit in broad daylight, holding an axe. How no officers were able to run up and cap this idiot blows my mind. In the chaos, the driver slams on the brakes, sending the poorly secured boat in the back of the float into the cabin. Holy f***ing shit. Yeah, maybe using a little fence chain wasn't enough. Rick Hoffman, Scuba, and Jessica jump into the sheriff's truck. Since nobody dealt with the active shooter, the cop takes a dart to the back, along with everyone else. Again, John Carver's methods are sloppy. As much as this movie would like to make you believe he's got all the angles covered, there's simply no way. Too many unknowns, variables, people who could take him down, trucks that could hit him, he could trip on, etc. You could easily sow the same fear, panic, and chaos with a single bullet fired from a suppressed rifle through a hole in the back of a blue 1990 Chevrolet Caprice, at no risk to you. Despite his daring methods, it worked. Now Kathleen is getting basted and garnished like a turkey. It's not looking good for her. Well, it wouldn't have had this dumb properly hogtied her, handcuffed her, slit her major tendons and ligaments, or literally anything more than what I can only presume was him draping loose rope over her hands. It's not like she's a Houdini or some CIA operative. She's a Right Mark pantsuit. Also, why are you wearing a mask in your own home? Props where props are due. She successfully slips past him upstairs using his own clod stompers as sound cover. Unfortunately, all the windows are boarded up. She tries to pry the wood off the windows, which is hilarious because moments later, she literally turns a single corner and whips the front door open to freedom. Sure, it wasn't readily apparent when she first walked into the room, but you'd think it might be a good idea to check some of the other rooms and front door first. Clearly, this guy isn't smart enough to put double-sided bolts on his doors if you were able to shrug off his rope restraints like you did. Kathleen's just too little, too late. should have tread running in a serpentine pattern. With this mask on, he should be incapable of rapid course correction. Carver drags her back inside and tosses her into a large restaurant oven. With the table set and all the guests accounted for, John Carver live streams the event, broadcasting his location to the police. Carver's been sloppy, but this is an obvious ploy. The sheriff doesn't think so, converging all of his units to that location, thereby creating a honeypot, as well as leaving the rest of the city vulnerable. Sure enough, it's just a phone watching a monitor. The show goes on. Carver reveals Kathleen's crisped corpse, dressed up like a Thanksgiving turkey. He goes around the table asking everyone to say what they're thankful for, starting with Evan. While Carver's carving up the turkey, Jessica sneakily activates her knife ring and saws through her restraints. Apparently, he learned nothing from Kathleen's escape. I gotta commend Jessica a little bit here for having the foresight to realize she is the right-marked president's daughter, and as such, if caught, will be restrained to be tortured and killed last, thereby giving her a chance to escape or fight back by cutting through the restraints with her handy-dandy blade ring. She's lucky he didn't use handcuffs. She's also smart enough to not make a hasty attack by herself, instead handing the ring knife to Scuba to pass along so they can 2v1 him. Scuba gets his restraints off just before Rick is force-fed his wife's thigh through a new hole in his neck. Bad news for Rick and Abby. Scuba and Jessica shove Carver, then bolt out the door to save themselves. Axe swing after axe swing misses and gets stuck in the wall, and every time Scuba is too scared to seize the opportunity and use his size and athleticism to pin Carver's arm while Jessica hammers his skull in. Hopefully, while Carver is in hot pursuit, Rick and Abby can break those flimsy IKEA chairs and grab one of the many sharp objects lying around to cut themselves loose and join the fight, but that never happens. The 2v1 quickly turns into a 1v1 when Jessica runs after Scuba takes a hit to the shoulder. Great teamwork, guys. He has an axe. You have 2 people and space. Pick up literally any object. Get in front and behind him. Have Scuba bait him to swing his axe, juke it, and both of you jump his axe before he can wind it back again. Jessica makes it up and over the fence in the nick of time, twisting her ankle really badly in the process. Carver doesn't immediately pursue. She hobbles back in town looking for help, finding nothing but a downed officer. It's Patrick. Not good. I'm guessing they all got gassed in those tunnels or something. Shouldn't have taken the obvious bait. Jessica finally realizes hand-to-hand fighting sucks, and she may need the help of old Smith & Wesson to take down this axe-wielding lunatic. Yeah, it's gonna take a lot more than a knife ring to cut this guy down to size. And by guy, I guess I mean Bobby. Thankfully, Patrick awakens from the dead to take back his gun before she limp wrists a .357 Magnum into the wall.
I think I shot him.
Patrick and Jessica return to the police station, where she's told her father and Abby are recovered alive. She takes a minute to sob in silence, noticing the burrs on her pants are the same burrs that are on Patrick's when he returns. Dun dun dun. My God, he must be the killer. Working with Bobby too. Doesn't really make sense that he'd stage himself by the police cruiser to be found by Jessica. The timing, coordination, motive, none of it makes sense. Though I gotta admit, it's not a good look, especially with him losing Bobby in the gunfight, where he emptied all 6 rounds without any return fire, all the while retreating. It doesn't make sense either. However, neither does the fact that we've been alone with him numerous times without being snuffed. And the burrs? The sheriff could have been searching for us earlier in those nearby woods, right off the street we found him at. Either way, we can't let him think we suspect him. Without our knife blade, we need to find another weapon and keep it cocked for the moment we get an indication he's not who he says he is. If we can get a clean escape path, we take it and run.
If only you'd been stuck on the fence a second longer.
Well, bet you're wishing you took that redneck up on the gun earlier. Patrick thinks it's in the bag, stating how he drugged, dressed, and framed Bobby for the murders, monologuing that he's getting revenge against anyone who was even loosely, indirectly connected with Right-Mart in that fateful day. It's what Amanda would have wanted. Can we be honest? You're simply a sociopath who's been fantasizing about BTKing for a while now, and finally had a semblance of an excuse to let the monster out. You basted, cooked, dressed, and carved an innocent woman who had nothing to do with the rabid degenerates that lost their minds over waffle irons. And bro, you've been foiled numerous times, constantly underestimating your victims. Nothing is in the bag until it's in the bag.
What are you thankful for?
The service in here.
Case in point, clever girl. Now I hope the next part of your plan involves escaping or killing him, because saying I got you on camera won't stop him from throwing you into a pizza oven too. And I hope it's not to go for that axe on the wall that's an even distance between the both of you. Yep, she went for the axe. Luckily, Bobby saves the day, and the sheriff doesn't just shoot both of them. They literally make it to the fence before Patrick gets to his feet. What is this guy doing? Bobby throws a lure to distract him while they hop in his truck. Jessica stopping along the way to turn a propane gas valve a half turn, which she knew was already pre-connected to an inflatable turkey that is of course going to be pivotal in their escape a few minutes from now. They don't make it far. Patrick ties off the randomly loose tow cable to a nearby pillar, ripping the truck to a stop. Instead of simply jumping out and fleeing on foot, Bobby hits the gas. Unsurprisingly, the car won't move because of the tow cable. Bro, this isn't Fast and the Furious 10. You can't just shift harder. Jessica's got another idea. Using the blunderbuss, which was sitting in his tow truck for some reason, she loads it with a spare gunpowder lying next to it, and muzzle loads her bracelet, which she then fires into the flammable gas-filled turkey balloon, which explodes with enough force to sever the steel braided tow cable from the concrete pillar. Then, Bobby and Jessica were rescued by Fish and Lakitu and drove off down Rainbow Road to start their bright futures together. Only, Ryan's still the one banging her, and Patrick's body was never found. Should've put that truck in reverse and made sure you heard 2 thumps, put it in drive, 2 more thumps, then waited for the fire to die down in order to ensure his was firmly pancaked into the pavement. Now you're gonna be left looking over your shoulder for the rest of your life. Ultimately, I'm confident we could have narrowed down the list of suspects to Sheriff Patrick quite quickly in the beginning with a simple stakeout. For that reason, I think John Carver in Thanksgiving was beaten. Moral of the story, find the motive, find the killer.